Welcome back to Roots and Garden Secrets. Today, I want to tell you about something that completely changed the way I think about growing food in my own backyard. Here is a question I want you to sit with for a moment. What if you could grow a tropical fruit right in your own backyard? A tree that practically takes care of itself, needs no pesticides, no fertilizer, almost no attention at all, and on top of that, it produces the largest fruit native to all of North America. A fruit so deeply woven into American history that the very first president of this country called it his favorite dessert, yet almost no one alive today has ever seen one, touched one, or tasted one. That fruit is called the pawpaw. And I promise you, by the time this video is over, it is going to change the way you look at your backyard forever. I have been waiting 6 years for this moment. Later in this video, I am going to walk outside, harvest my very first pawpaw from my own tree, and taste it right here on camera for the very first time. So stay with me until the end, because this is one you do not want to miss. And if you are new here, welcome. Please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to Roots and Garden Secrets. It helps this channel reach more people who love real, honest gardening, just like you do. So let me tell you what the pawpaw actually is, because once you understand where it comes from and what it has meant to this country, you will wonder how it ever disappeared from our lives in the first place. The pawpaw, known scientifically as Asimina triloba, belongs to the Ananaceae family, a mostly tropical family of flowering trees and shrubs. Here is what makes it truly remarkable. It is the only member of this tropical family that can survive and thrive in a temperate climate, enduring winter temperatures as low as -20 degrees Fahrenheit across hardiness zones 4 through 9. In the wild, it spreads naturally along creek banks, river bottoms, and the shaded floors of eastern American forests. A tropical soul living an American life. Now let us talk about the fruit itself. The pawpaw produces the largest fruit native to all of North America, with a single fruit weighing anywhere from 5 to 16 ounces. The flesh is soft and custard-like, and the flavor is unlike anything most people have ever tasted. Imagine the creaminess of a banana, the richness of a mango, and a hint of pineapple, all in one fruit, grown right here on American soil. It is also surprisingly nutritious, delivering more vitamin C, magnesium, iron, and plant-based protein than most fruits on your grocery store shelf. But the part of this story that deserves the most attention is its history. The pawpaw is not some exotic newcomer. Native American tribes across the eastern woodlands relied on it as a staple food, using bark fibers to weave rope and leaves and seeds as a natural insect repellent. In 1806, when Lewis and Clark found themselves deep in unfamiliar territory, with food supplies nearly gone, it was the pawpaw that kept their expedition alive. And George Washington himself wrote in his personal diary about his deep affection for the pawpaw, planting trees at his Mount Vernon estate in Virginia, and eating the chilled fruit in autumn, the closest thing to ice cream an American could get in the 1700s. This is not a foreign plant. The pawpaw is American to its roots, a piece of living history that somehow got left behind. And that is exactly what makes growing one in your own backyard feel like something truly special. Now here is the question that I know is sitting in the back of your mind right now. If this fruit is so incredible, if it grows so easily, and if it has been part of American life for thousands of years, then why have most of us never seen one? Why is it not sitting in a bowl on your kitchen counter right now? The answer comes down to one simple and honestly frustrating reality: commercial profitability. When American agriculture industrialized through the early and mid-1900s, the entire food system began optimizing for one thing above all else, and that was the ability to harvest mechanically, pack in bulk, and ship fruit across the country without losing it. Apples, pears, citrus. These fruits were chosen not necessarily because they tasted the best, but because they could survive the journey. The apple you pick up at the grocery store in August was very likely harvested back in October of the previous year and kept in cold storage for nearly 12 months. Most people have no idea they are eating fruit that is almost a year old. The pawpaw simply cannot play that game. Once a pawpaw is ripe enough to eat, you have about 2 to 3 days before it is past its prime. There is no cold storage solution that changes that. There is no packaging that buys it another week. If a fruit cannot survive at least 7 days on a supermarket shelf, the commercial food industry has no use for it. And so the pawpaw was quietly left behind, not because it failed us, but because the system was never built for something so honest and so perishable. The good news is that things are beginning to shift. Researchers at universities including Ohio State, the University of Kentucky, and the University of Maryland are actively working on pawpaw cultivation programs. Farmers markets across Ohio and Kentucky are now selling fresh pawpaws in season, and the buy local movement is giving this forgotten fruit a real second chance. But the truth is, if you want to eat a fresh pawpaw consistently and reliably, the best thing you can do is grow your own. And that is exactly what I decided to do. Back in July of 2018, I planted 2 pawpaw trees in my backyard. One was a variety called Prima, and the other was a variety called Rebecca's Gold. That first year, I covered them with shade cloth, blocking about 60% of direct sunlight, because young pawpaw trees are extremely sensitive to full sun exposure in their early life. After that first season, I basically left them alone. I never sprayed them. I never pruned them. After the first year of establishment, I barely watered them. I say this with complete sincerity. The pawpaw is the laziest fruit tree I have ever grown, and I mean that as the highest possible compliment. But I made a mistake that cost me years. I planted those 2 trees just 7 feet apart, thinking that was close enough. What I did not know until year 4, when they finally bloomed for the first time, was that Prima and Rebecca's Gold flower nearly a full month apart from each other. By the time one variety opened its flowers, the other had already finished. No overlap, no cross-pollination, no fruit. I had waited 4 years to discover that my trees could not pollinate each other at all. Then things got worse before they got better. My Rebecca's Gold tree died. The nursery had made a poor graft, and the connection between the rootstock and the scion wood failed internally over time. I had no choice but to cut the entire tree back down to the ground. But here is where the story turns around. The rootstock itself survived and began throwing up new shoots from the base. I ordered budwood online and grafted 2 new varieties onto those rootstock suckers, a variety called Maria's Joy and another called Naomi. I also let a 3rd sucker grow on its own as a seedling. What had been a failed tree was now a 3-in-1 pawpaw growing in the exact same spot. Sometimes in the garden, a setback has a way of teaching you more than success ever could. So now that you understand why this fruit matters and what it took me personally to get here, let me give you the real growing guide. Not the watered-down version you find on most gardening websites. I want to walk you through everything I have learned. The right way to plant, the right way to care for these trees, and the details that actually make the difference between a tree that struggles and one that thrives. The first decision you make is also the most important one: choosing the right variety. Do not plant pawpaw from seed. I want to be clear about this. A seed-grown pawpaw tree can take a decade or more to produce its first fruit, and when it finally does, the flavor is completely unpredictable. You have no idea what you are going to get. Always buy a grafted tree from a named variety. Grafted trees begin life already sexually mature, which means they can start flowering in as little as 4 to 5 years. That alone saves you half a decade of waiting. When it comes to which varieties to choose, here are the ones I recommend most. Shenandoah was developed by the University of Kentucky and is one of the best all-around options. It has a mild, clean sweetness and fewer seeds than most varieties, which means more flesh per fruit. Susquehanna consistently wins blind taste tests among pawpaw enthusiasts. It produces large, richly flavored fruit and is widely considered one of the finest named varieties available. If you love mango flavor, there is actually a variety simply called mango that leans heavily in that direction. And if you only have space for one tree, look at Prima or sunflower, both of which carry a gene for partial self-fertility, meaning they can sometimes set fruit without a second tree nearby, though hand pollination will significantly improve your results. My strongest recommendation is to plant 3 different named varieties arranged in a triangle, with each tree spaced about 4 to 6 feet apart from the others. Allow them to grow into each other naturally, the way pawpaws grow in the wild, as a dense thicket. This maximizes pollination overlap, gives you a longer combined flowering window, and keeps your footprint compact in the yard. Now let us talk about soil and location. Pawpaws prefer a loamy, well-draining soil with a pH between 5.5 and 7.0. They naturally grow along creek banks and valley floors where the soil is rich in organic matter and stays consistently moist without becoming waterlogged. That is the condition you want to replicate. In your first year, protect young trees from direct sun by covering them with shade cloth that blocks 60 to 80% of light. Pawpaw seedlings and young grafted trees are extremely sensitive to intense sun exposure and can suffer serious leaf scorch very quickly. From year 2 onward, remove the shade cloth and let them have full sun. That direct light is what drives flowering and fruit production. Watering is critical in year 1 and much more forgiving after that. During the first growing season, give each tree a deep watering of about 5 gallons around the root zone, 1 to 2 times per week. Use a drip irrigation line or a soaker hose rather than overhead sprinklers. Keeping the foliage dry reduces the risk of fungal issues, and deep watering encourages the roots to grow downward rather than staying shallow. Starting in year 2, your trees will become largely self-sufficient. You will still want to supplement during any dry stretch lasting more than 2 weeks, especially during the fruit development window from May through July, when consistent moisture directly affects fruit size and quality. Mulching is one of the simplest things you can do, and one of the most effective. Spread a 3 to 4 inch layer of wood chip mulch in a circle at least 3 feet wide around the base of each tree. Leave a gap of 2 to 3 inches right at the trunk to prevent moisture from sitting against the bark and causing rot. That mulch layer holds soil moisture, moderates soil temperature, and as it breaks down over time, it builds the kind of rich organic matter that pawpaws love. Think of it as recreating the forest floor they evolved in. Fertilizing is where I see a lot of gardeners go wrong. In years 1 and 2, use a balanced fertilizer like a 10-10-10 blend or a good quality compost worked into the soil each spring around March. Starting in year 3, when your trees are approaching flowering age, shift to a low nitrogen formula like a 5-10-10. High nitrogen encourages lush leafy growth, but suppresses flowering. You want the tree putting its energy into blooms and fruit, not just foliage. If you prefer an organic approach, diluted fish emulsion applied to the root zone every 3 to 4 weeks throughout the growing season works beautifully, and the trees respond very well to it. Now here is the section that I think separates casual pawpaw growers from people who actually get reliable harvests every year. Pollination management. Pawpaw flowers have a unique biological trait called protogeny, which means the female part of the flower becomes receptive before the male pollen is even released. In plain terms, a single flower cannot pollinate itself, even if both parts are present. This is the primary reason you need multiple varieties. The natural pollinators for pawpaw are not bees, they are flies and beetles. If you want to boost your natural pollination rates, try hanging a small mesh bag containing a piece of aged meat near the tree during bloom time. It sounds unusual, but the scent draws in the flies that do this work, and it is genuinely effective. For hand pollination, which I highly recommend doing regardless, work between 9 in the morning and 11 in the morning when temperatures are between 65 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Use a small soft bristle brush to transfer the loose yellow pollen from a flower in its male phase over to a flower in its female phase, which you can identify by the glossy, slightly sticky appearance of the receptive stigma. If your varieties are not quite in sync, you can collect pollen and store it in a sealed dry container in the refrigerator for up to 3 days, giving you a little extra window to work with. Finally, a word on pruning. Pawpaws do not demand heavy pruning, but a little strategic work each late winter makes a real difference. Do your pruning in February or early March, before the flower buds open. Remove any dead or damaged wood, and clear out any branches that are crossing and growing back into the center of the canopy. Good airflow and light penetration through the canopy directly improve pollination success. If you want to keep your trees at a manageable height for easy harvesting, tip the central leader once the tree reaches your target height, which encourages the tree to branch outward rather than continuing upward, and pay attention to the suckers that emerge from the roots each season. If you want a single trunk tree, remove them flush with the ground as soon as they appear. If you are building a natural thicket, select 2 or 3 of the strongest suckers and let them develop into full trunks alongside the original. And now we have arrived at the moment I have been waiting 6 years for. Let me tell you exactly how harvest works, and then I want to share what happened the morning I finally tasted my very first pawpaw from my own tree. Knowing when to harvest is everything with this fruit. As a pawpaw approaches full ripeness, the skin shifts from deep green to a lighter, slightly yellowish green, and small dark spots may begin to appear on the surface. Do not be alarmed by those spots. They are a natural part of the ripening process, not a sign of damage. The real test is touch. Press gently on the fruit with your thumb. A ripe pawpaw will yield to that pressure the way a perfectly ripe avocado does, soft but still holding its shape. Give the fruit a gentle tug, or shake the branch lightly. If it is truly ready, it will come free with almost no resistance at all, or it will have already fallen to the ground on its own. That is actually how the best pawpaws are harvested, right off the ground the moment they drop naturally. When that happens, pick them up immediately. Squirrels, possums, and raccoons know exactly what a ripe pawpaw smells like, and they will get there before you if you give them the chance. I learned that lesson early and wrapped chicken wire loosely around the base of my tree before the season started. Once you have your fruit, let it sit at room temperature for 2 to 5 days to reach its full peak of ripeness. After that, move it to the refrigerator, where it will keep for another 3 to 7 days. If you end up with more than you can eat fresh, peel them, remove the seeds, and seal the pulp in a zip bag for the freezer. Frozen pawpaw pulp keeps well for up to 6 months and is perfect for smoothies, homemade ice cream, pawpaw bread made just like banana bread, or even a pawpaw salsa with jalapeno and cilantro that will genuinely surprise everyone at your next cookout. Now let me tell you about the morning that changed everything for me. I walked out to my prima tree and found the smallest fruit from the cluster lying on the ground. Smaller fruits ripen first, and this one had fallen overnight. I brought it inside, chilled it in the refrigerator until the next morning, just the way George Washington would have done it, and then I sat down to taste it for the first time. I cut it open, and the inside was a beautiful deep yellow, almost the color of cantaloupe, with a fragrance that was sweet and tropical, and completely unlike anything I expected. There were 5 seeds nestled in the flesh. I scooped out a spoonful and put it in my mouth, and I honestly was not prepared for what happened next. It melted, not in the way a soft fruit melts, but completely, instantly, like the texture of a marshmallow dissolving the moment it touches your tongue. No chewing required. The flavor was cantaloupe, banana, mango, and something almost creamy and vanilla-like, all arriving at once in a single bite. I turned off the camera and brought the second half to my wife Linda, who had never even heard of a pawpaw before that morning. She took one bite and looked at me with an expression that said everything. If I am being honest with myself, I think I could have let it ripen one more day at room temperature before refrigerating it. There was the faintest trace of background astringency, very mild, but it told me the fruit had one more day of potential in it. Next season, I will know better. And knowing better each year is exactly what gardening is all about. The pawpaw renaissance is already underway across this country. Every September, Albany, Ohio, hosts the Ohio Pawpaw Festival, the largest pawpaw celebration in the world, drawing thousands of people who come specifically to taste, celebrate, and learn about this fruit. At farmers markets in Ohio and Kentucky, fresh pawpaws in season sell for $5 to $10 per pound, and they sell out fast. The Grow Your Own Food movement, the native plant movement, the permaculture community, they have all embraced the pawpaw as one of the most meaningful trees an American gardener can plant. So here is my message to you. If you live in zones 4 through 9, there is no reason to wait another season. Plant 3 grafted trees in a triangle, 4 to 6 feet apart. Choose named varieties with overlapping bloom times. Hand pollinate when you can. Mulch generously, feed thoughtfully, and then step back and let this tree do what it has been doing on American soil for thousands of years. You will become the person in your neighborhood growing something that almost no one else has ever tasted. A fruit that sustained Native Americans, kept explorers alive, and delighted the first president of the United States. And the beautiful irony is that it is one of the easiest trees you will ever grow. I have linked some trusted nurseries and resources in the description below, so you can get started right away. If this video gave you something useful today, please hit the like button, leave a comment below telling me whether you have ever tasted a pawpaw, and subscribe to Roots and Garden Secrets so you never miss what we share next. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.